So what if everyone actually had one soulmate? That random person somewhere in the world just for them. This truly would be a nightmare because there are a lot of problems with the concept of a single random soulmate. But what if we did have one randomly assigned perfect soulmate and we couldn't be happy with anyone else? Would we find each other? We'll assume your soulmate is set at birth. You know nothing about who or where they are, but as in the romantic cliche, you'll recognize each other the moment your eyes meet. Right away, this raises a few questions. For starters, is your soulmate even still alive? 100 billion or so of humans have ever lived, but only 7 billion are alive now, which gives the human condition a 93% mortality rate. If we're all paired up at random, 90% of our soulmates are long dead. And while that sounds horrible, it gets worse. A simple argument shows we can't just limit ourselves to past humans. We have to include an unknown number of future humans as well. You see, if it's possible for your soulmate to be in the distant past, then it also has to be possible for your soulmate to be in the distant future. So let's assume your soulmate lives at the same time as you. Furthermore, to keep things from getting creepy, we'll assume they're within a few years of your age. This is stricter than the standard age gap creepiness formula, but if we assume a 30-year-old and a 40-year-old can be soulmates, then the creepiness rule is violated if they accidentally meet 15 years earlier. So with our same age restriction, most of us have a pool of around 500 million potential matches. But what about gender, and sexual orientation, and culture, and language? We could keep using demographics to try to break things down further, but we'd be drifting away from the idea of a random soulmate. In our scenario, you don't know anything about who your soulmate will be until you look into their eyes. Everybody has one orientation toward their soulmate. The odds of running into your soulmate are incredibly small. The number of strangers we make eye contact with each day is hard to estimate. It can vary from almost none, so recluses or people in small towns for example, to many thousands, like a police officer in Times Square for example. So let's suppose you lock eyes with an average of a few dozen new strangers each day. Personally, I'm pretty introverted, so for me that's definitely a generous estimate. If 10% of them are close to your age, that's around 50,000 people in a lifetime. Given that you have 500 million potential soulmates, it means you'll only find true love in one lifetime out of 10,000. But with the threat of dying alone looming so imminently, society could restructure to try to enable as much eye contact as possible. We could put together massive conveyor belts to move lines of people past each other, but if the eye contact effect works over webcams, we could just use a modified version of chat roulette. If everyone used this system for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, and if it takes you a couple of seconds to decide if someone's your soulmate, this system could, in theory, match everyone up with their soulmates in just a few decades. In the real world, many people have trouble finding any time at all for romance. Few could devote 2 decades to it. So maybe only rich kids will be able to afford to sit around on soulmateroulette.com. Unfortunately for the proverbial 1%, most of their soulmates are to be found in the other 99%. If only 1% of people use the service, then 1% of that 1% would find their match through the system, or in other words, 1 in 10,000. The other 99% of the 1% would have an incentive to get more people into the system. They might sponsor projects akin to 1 laptop per child, but with a sleazier vibe. Careers like cashier and police officer in Times Square would become high-status prizes because of their eye contact potential. People would flock to cities and public gathering places to find love, just as they do now. But even if a bunch of us spent years on soulmateroulette.com, another bunch of us managed to hold jobs that offered constant eye contact with strangers, and the rest of us just hoped for luck, only a small minority of us would ever find true love. The rest of us would be out of luck. Given all the stress and pressure, some people would fake it. They'd want to join the club so they'd get together with another lonely person and stage a fake soulmate encounter. They'd marry, hide their relationship problems, and struggle to present a happy face to their friends and family. And of course, this never happens in our world. All in all, the world of random soulmates is even lonelier than the one in which we currently live.